So in this example, we are going to evaluate. So we're going to add negative 2 3/5 plus 1 1/4. What's the first thing we should do here to add these two fractions together? Okay, so we'll turn the mixed numbers into improper fractions. Again, we ignore the negative when we're turning it into an improper fraction. We would just do 2 times 5 plus 3. So what's 2 times 5? 10 plus 3? 13 over, is it positive or negative? Negative. Good. And we're going to add 1 1/4. What would that be as an improper fraction? So same thing, 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, so it would be 5 over 4. You're finding the lowest common denominator, which is what? 20. So we multiply this by 4, which means we have to multiply the numerator by 4, and we have to multiply this by 5, so that we can get a common denominator of 20. Okay, so what is it? Negative 13 times 4 is equal to what? Negative 52. And 5 times 5? Now all we do is we add the numerators together, right? What's negative 52 plus 25? Good. Negative 27 over 20. What would that be as a mixed number? How many times does 20 go into 27? Once, with how many left over? 7 over 20. Is that correct, what I just wrote?
No.
What am I missing? Negative. We put the negative in front of the whole number to indicate that it's a negative answer. So what you're doing here is you're going to evaluate, and I'll read it to you. It says negative 3 2/5 x. What does that mean when you have a number next to a variable? Multiplication. So if you want to help remember, you can put brackets around that, okay? So we have negative 3 2/5 multiplied by whatever x is, divided by y. Okay, so the first thing we want to do here, you have an x in the question and you have a y in the question, but I'm telling you that x is equal to 4 1/3 and y is equal to negative 1 4/7. What should I do with that information? So we, instead of writing the variable, we replace it with the value of it. So we're substituting the value of x into the expression. So we're going to leave this negative 3 2/5, and I know I have to multiply it by, what's the value of x? 4 1/3, and then I'm going to dividing it by a negative 1 4 over 7. Just by looking at this, before we even continue, who thinks that your final answer is going to be a negative? Who thinks that your final answer is going to be a positive? It's going to be positive because you have a negative times a positive will result in a negative. And then you have a negative divided by a negative, which will give you a positive. So just before you do anything, I just wanted you to think about that. So now what we're going to do is we are going to multiply. But I have fractions that are mixed numbers. What do I need to do in order to multiply these together? You have to do what? Put them into improper fractions. This would be negative 17 over 5. And multiply it by positive 13 over 3. And then we're going to divide that by, let's turn this into an improper fraction. So we're doing it all at once. It's going to be a negative 7 times 1. 7 times 1 plus 4. 11 over 7. Okay, so we multiply these two. Negative 17 times positive 13. A negative times a positive is a negative. What's 17 times 13? 221. And then we multiply what? 5 times 3 is 15. And we have to divide that by negative 11 over 7. But when we are dividing fractions, what do we have to do? Multiply by the reciprocal. So negative 221 over 15 times, what's the reciprocal of 11 over 7? 7 over 11. Does it matter where I put the negative? No. You can put it here, or you can put it here, as long as you're only putting one negative. Either way, you're still going to result in a positive answer, because if I put the negative here, when I multiply my numerators, I have a negative times a negative, which would give me a positive. But if I put the negative with the denominator, in the end, you're still going to have two negatives that will give you a positive, right? Okay, so 221 times 7. Good. 1,547 over 165. Okay, I want that as a mixed number. So we have 9 and 62 over 165, yes. And that is lowest terms because 62 and 165 are not divisible by the same number.